we are in a very crucial spot for the crypto markets because on one side, if you are an altcoin holder, you're waiting for better liquidity conditions to hopefully see an altcoin season. But on the other side, we're looking at Bitcoin and having to balance between the 4-year cycle and whether or not Bitcoin is also waiting for better liquidity conditions. So today we're going to take a look at where the markets are and exactly what I am doing in terms of altcoins as we navigate this uncertain time. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and let's talk about it. Over the last 24 to 48 hours, we've finally seen Bitcoin form a local bottom, and that has allowed altcoins to breathe a sigh of relief. If we take a look at Bitcoin right now, it's sitting around 87,600. If we take a look at it on a day chart, we have had those last few daily candles form a local bottom around 80,600 and bounce back up to, a high of 89,000, but right now it's sitting around $87,000. Now, looking at this on a weekly chart, we are still a long way from that 50-week moving average, which is still sitting around $102,000. So for Bitcoin to really get to that 50-week moving average, we still have a 17% move for it to happen. And I do believe it's only a matter of time before that is going to happen. But what comes after that move is what we're really going to have to monitor and look forward to, because that's going to dictate what happens with altcoins. Now, we have seen a lot of different theses out there as to what's happening with Bitcoin, whether or not Bitcoin has topped out in October at $126,000, whether or not Bitcoin follows the 4-year cycle, and whether or not Bitcoin and altcoins are going to go higher as liquidity conditions become better. Now, as you guys know, we do have quantitative tightening ending on December 1st. That is not new. I'm not going to bore you with that information. If we take a look at interest rate cuts, the odds of a cut in the December meeting, which is happening on December 10th, continue to grow higher and higher. We are now at an 81% chance of a 0.25 cut come the December meeting. And as we can see, if we go all the way through, let's say mid 2026, if we go to the June/July meeting, there is right now, the markets are pricing in, or, the analysts are predicting that the interest rates are likely going to be around 3 to 3.25. Now, from the current interest rates, that is about a 0.75 to a full point decrease from what we are currently seeing, which obviously bodes well with the whole thesis of Bitcoin following liquidity and altcoins also following the liquidity cycles. Because again, if you take a look at M2, what has happened over the cycle is not nearly the same thing that happened in 2013, in 2017, and 2021. You can see the different growth of the M2 supply over 21 central banks. That is, representative of every Bitcoin peak. And 2025 cycle is just literally not even comparable in terms of liquidity over the last few cycles. Now, that's the whole thesis about global liquidity and the prices of Bitcoin and altcoins following that liquidity cycle. Now, on the other hand, if you look at the 4-year cycle, this is essentially looking at Bitcoin halving and what happens after the fact. Well, we have here Ben Cohen, who has basically been right this entire cycle, saying that Bitcoin has continued to exert dominance on altcoins and that we haven't seen the bottom for alts Bitcoin pairs just yet. And that may happen with quantitative tightening. But taking a look at a video he posted just recently, it is quite interesting because he is saying that Bitcoin over the last 4 cycles has done the exact same thing, whereas if it goes below the 50-week moving average on a weekly chart, then soon after or eventually it makes its way to the 100-week moving average, which is that blue line that he has highlighted here. And lastly, the bear market bottom is usually around the 200-week moving average. Now, on top of that, he's also mentioning that typically speaking, a bear market for Bitcoin lasts about 1 year. Now, as we know in 2021, the bull market top was in November, and from November 2021 all the way to November 2022, that was basically your bear market for Bitcoin. And in 2017, it was actually from December to December, and 2013 was another full year length. So what Ben is arguing here is that if we, continue going with the thesis of the 4-year cycle, we've first off seen the break of the 50-week moving average, and we are on our way to seeing the 100-week moving average act as probably interim support until we get a break of the 100-week moving average and finally find ourselves in a bear market over the next year where we eventually see Bitcoin's price go to the 200-week moving average. So before we get further into this and show you guys what I'm doing with altcoins right now, let me know in the comment section below, what thesis do you believe most? I do think it's just going to be a wait and see, and we're going to have to position ourselves accordingly and have those invalidation targets so that if Bitcoin does carry further down, we're going to be able to get out and, cut our losses instead of just holding the bag and waiting for the next altcoin season, which may just be in a few years' time. But on the opposite side of things, if the 4-year cycle isn't a thing anymore and now Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins want to follow liquidity, well, we're going to be positioned so that we can also catch that upside. Now, if we take a look at that 100-week moving average on Bitcoin, we are currently right around that 100-week moving average, which is sitting right around 83,700. So, of course, it is very interesting that, the theory continues to play out. And if you take a look at the 200 weekly moving average, that here is obviously not close just yet. We are sitting right around that $55,000 mark for the 200 weekly moving average. So again, that is likely not going to be seen anytime soon. As we said, the bear market typically takes a full year to realize, and we are still not sure whether or not we're going to see the bear market just yet because of that uncertainty with global liquidity conditions getting better, which has never happened in a time where Bitcoin has fallen below the 50-week moving average. So there's a lot of unknowns. And again, I am not saying that I know what's going to happen, but I am playing certain narratives right now that are continuing to do well despite market conditions. If we take a look at one of those narratives, we are talking about neobanks. Neobanks allow for people to spend their crypto in the real world. Most of them have cards like Visa cards that you can literally spend your crypto easily through different merchants and so on and so forth. And one of the ones that has been heavily talked about over the last few weeks and months has been Avicii. It's a completely fairly launched project. The team actually has to buy in to Avicii to hold it, or they have to pass a vote to have some holdings of Avicii, and Avicii has been accumulated by so many whales at this point. And even though the markets have, completely been brutal for Bitcoin and altcoins over the last 5 weeks, looking at the last 5 weeks for Avicii, it's only been upwards and onwards. So it's sitting around $80 million worth of market cap. We've been talking about this one in our Discord, right around 4 million and even around 8 million. So you could have definitely been early on Avicii if you are looking to join a Discord through this, very turbulent time in crypto. Have a look at the first link in the description below. That is our private Discord. And in there, you're going to be able to see what I buy, what I sell, and all the market research that we do for you. Now, on the same line of thought, we have another neobank project that is doing quite well, kind of affiliated with Avicii. A lot of people are searching for beta plays. Again, none of these are recommendations. I'm just showing you guys different narratives that are doing well and coins within those narratives that are continuing to do well despite market conditions. So this one here, Machines, again, in the neobank ecosystem or narrative, and the dev of this project is actually an advisor to Avicii. So there's a lot of speculation whether or not these projects would eventually partner up together, but This is a tiny coin at about $4.5 million worth of market cap, but as you can see, it is just around its all-time highs. And looking at the momentum right now, there's definitely a lot of people hoping that this breaks that all-time high, potentially for a breakout. But this one is another one to add to your watch list. And all of the coins I mentioned here are simply to put on your watch list because the neobanking narrative is hot right now. Just like a few weeks ago, it was privacy. Just like a few weeks before that, it was more AI, and so on and so forth. So it is important to follow trends in this market condition because a lot of things happen. Altcoins are continuing to move, but the money rotates very, very fast among altcoins. Now, another one in the neobanking ecosystem or narrative is Ubit. This one here is a relatively new launch. It's been absolutely destroyed on launch. As you can see, it went to a high of about $170 million worth of market cap or FDV, and now it's sitting at 44 million. It bottomed out around 22 just a few days ago. This one is another one I would put on my watch list in the neobanking ecosystem. Now, if we quickly switch to privacy narrative, this one here is one of the ones that launched on Virtual's protocol. It's PRXVT. They basically built a layer for privacy for AI agents within the X402 protocol. So all of the payments that are associated within agent-to-agent payments are all private if they use this project's infrastructure. Now, we talked about this project in our Discord, around $1 million worth of FDV. Again, tiny coin. Don't invest money that you can't afford to lose because you're likely going to lose it, but it is almost up a 6x from when we talked about it on launch. So this is another one that, in the privacy narrative, as we know, privacy coins have made a comeback recently with the market conditions that we have. So this one here in the tiny market cap plays within the privacy narrative is one to add to your watch list. And another one I would add to it is MuteSwap. This one here has done very well upon launch as well. It did reach an all-time high just shy of 9 million, and right now it's around 4.8 million. But again, lots of movement on MuteSwap. Now, like I said, those are two narratives that I'm currently looking at, but there are tons of coins out there. And as the market rebounds and as Bitcoin gets closer to that 50-week moving average, which I think it's going to happen in the next few weeks, you're likely going to see the broader altcoins go up along with it. So for now, if you're not positioned in coins, it is a very interesting time to position yourself in some coins. It can be some large caps because the large caps are down quite a bit from some of the highs that they just recently had. If you take a look at coins like Link, it's at $13 just, back in October, it was twice that price. Now, if you look at Solana, it's at $138 in October or late September, it was at $245. If you look at Avalanche, it's at $13, $14. It was just at $30. If you look at Sui, all of these different coins are absolutely down in the gutter. Sui back down to $1.50. So you can look at all of those large caps. You don't even need to go to those small caps I just showed you. Have a look at those, coins that everybody knows about that you don't necessarily need to be gambling on smaller coins. And you could get into those plays right now if you're thinking that, of course, Bitcoin is going to rally to that 50-week moving average, which is about 17% gain from the current price. Is it going to happen in 24 hours? Likely not. Is it going to happen in the next few weeks? Likely will, just like it did in 2021. So in the meantime, if you have these different altcoins, let's go back to Sui, for example. Well, if you want to get into Sui at $1.50, you are definitely getting a much better price than just back in October. But the thing that you should absolutely do if you're getting into any play is have an invalidation target, because if Bitcoin starts falling, you best believe that these altcoins are not going to rocket 200% if Bitcoin falls. And if Bitcoin rallies to that 50-week moving average and decides to go back down, well, you better be taking profits at the 50-week moving average for Bitcoin on your altcoins, because if there's a reversal for Bitcoin, then there's going to be a reversal for your altcoins. So for SUI, for example, if you want to get in at $1.54, you would get in, but then have an invalidation target. Let's say if it goes lower than $1.30, which has been some support just recently, which is also coinciding with some previous levels of resistance back in January and some previous levels of resistance in April. That could be, one invalidation target that you have here on a specific coin as well. So look at your charts, look at your coins, and make sure you have the right risk management for your coins. Looking at Solana, maybe $120 could be, a level where you decide to get out if Solana drops back below those levels. Of course, being in the markets right now is volatile. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty, and typically speaking, when there is that amount of fear, the market does reverse and goes up, but it doesn't mean that it has to go back up to new all-time highs. I just want you guys to understand that. And again, nobody knows where Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins are going. All we can do is trade the market that we currently have those invalidation targets, have positions for the upside, and let the markets play out like they want. So that is what I'm currently doing in this current market condition. I still have my entire bags of altcoins, and I'm going to wait and see what happens next for Bitcoin and global liquidity conditions. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to see what I am doing, have a look at the first link in the description below. And with that said, make sure you subscribe if you are new. Only about 30% of people who watch this are subscribed, so do me a favor and subscribe. And as you're down there, make sure you smash that like button, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.